Welcome. It's great to have you all here, and thank you, Jeff, for that amazing introduction. Jeff and I do have a lot of tales to share, and we've played a lot of softball together over the years, a lot of basketball games over the years, and that guy's a real competitor, and what a great job he's doing in building another fantastic software company here in North Dakota. I'm super grateful for a lot of things, and I'm grateful for the fact that I'm ended up being born on Earth. This turns out to be a pretty good planet. We got air, we got water, we got food, and other people used to be in charge on here, but now we got the humans running it. We make some mistakes, we're human, but by and large, things on this planet are better than they've ever been. You may not know that, when you pick up the media every day, but in terms of where we were relative to global warfare, in terms of where we were on poverty and disease, we're making strides like we've never made before. The last 20 years have been incredible, and part of the reason why we're having that huge surge forward on our little planet is because of a couple things, and one of them is free markets, and one of them is technology and innovation. But those two things have, in the form of capitalism that's uniquely American, has raised more people out of poverty than any other tool invented since mankind, and maybe it'll keep sticking and we'll keep driving forward. But on that little planet, there's a very special place called the United States, and it's an amazing country. There's no doubt that the U.S. is the most exceptional place on the planet. I've had the great fortune in my career to have an opportunity to work all over the world. At Microsoft, I had people working for me for over 120 countries. Every race, creed, and religion. And when you talk to people all over the world, there's a lot of people, there's only one place they want to live, and that's in the U.S., because this is really an exceptional place. And it's exceptional because of our freedoms. It's exceptional because this country was founded, 225 years ago around a set of freedoms that were codified in our Constitution, and that includes freedom of religion, and it includes freedom of speech. I mean, basic rights and principles that many people on this planet do not have today, and that our country's had for over 2 centuries. We also have something which is also sort of uniquely American, and that's the freedom to try, and the freedom to be an entrepreneur, the freedom to be a risk taker, and it's also a place where people have a chance to try and fail, and then they have a chance to try again. I mean, some of the great success stories in our country are about people who failed, picked themselves up, and got it going again, and that's just really unique to us and very special. The other thing when I look at this map that's unique and special is that we're able to enlarge Hawaii and shrink Alaska to about a fifth of its size. So, one of the exceptional things. I'm also exceptionally grateful. I mean, you could, on this planet and in this country, then if you're going to be born in one state in the country, wow, I'm born in North Dakota. I mean, fantastic. What a great place to be and a great place to grow up. And all of these, many of you here in this room today, share that North Dakota heritage with me. And we've all got, I know, sort of the deep founding pride. This is one of the most recently settled places on the planet, North Dakota. This is in the 1870s. The estimated population in North Dakota in 1870, excluding the Native Americans that had been here, prior to that, was only about 2,500 people. But there was an explosion in the 70s and 80s that many of our, including many of the ancestors of people in this room, that these huge risk takers that gave up everything, to leave Germany or Sweden or Norway or any other place in the world and come here to a place that had no infrastructure, no electricity. In some cases, they were here before the railroads were. I mean, so this state was founded on people that were risk-taking people, that were perseverant people that came, and that's the heritage that we have. And then the other reason, if you want to feel special, is that we are actually 0.23% of the U.S. population, which is why when you travel like me and you meet people and they go, wow, I've never met somebody from North Dakota before. Well, And then when you travel around the world and you say I'm from North Dakota and they go, where? Then you understand that we're less than 1/10% of the world population of close to 7 billion. And this is with us having a record population. I mean, we're doing a great job on growing the state again. Through 2000, we had a unique characteristic because we were the only state in the country in 2000 that had fewer people than we had in 1930. And I mean, the only thing I can call that is I can just call that a team effort. No one person could be responsible for us to stand out like that. But now we're on the grow again. We've broken that 700,000 mark, and we're up to about in the 730 range. But like many of you, I've got a heritage here, and one of the earliest pioneers in North Dakota was my great-grandmother, Linda Slaughter. She and her husband, Dr. Slaughter, ended up getting assigned first to Fort Rice and then Fort Lincoln, which is outside of Bismarck near Mandan. The fort still stands there, where he served as the fort doctor, and she assisted him. She was unusual. It was just still Dakota Territory at that time. She had studied at Oberlin College, and so she was one of the few women in all of Dakota Territory that had some college education. And she assisted her husband, the doctor, on both with people that were in the Army, but also with locals, and the native tribes named her Zazula, the one who helps, is what they called her. And so she was also a historian. She kept diaries, she wrote correspondence, and a lot of the early history of Bismarck is recorded by her. And from this, we know that some of the struggles of an early pioneer, but also that she was a pace setter in terms of a woman, and pace setter in terms of civic involvement, where she first got the first Sunday school started in Bismarck. She got the first library started in Bismarck. She was the first female postmaster in Bismarck. And then later she was elected as a school superintendent, which you might say, well, that's not that unusual. She was elected, but understand women didn't have the right to vote. So she was the first elected female office holder in the state. And then she worked as a correspondent with people even like Susan B. Anthony. She was trying in 1899 when the state was going to be admitted to the Union. She was fighting to see if North Dakota could be admitted to the Union with women being able to vote at that time. Wouldn't that have been incredible? They moved out of that fort when they heard the railroad was coming, and said, hey, there's an opportunity for us in the private sector. And before Bismarck was Edwinton, it was Camp Hancock. First it was tents. They lived in a tent. Her diaries describe all this life in the tents. They later moved into one of these log houses, which is sort of right down on, sort of Main and Second in what's now Bismarck. And it was there that they, in these, super humble beginnings, they, began raising a family. Their third child was my grandmother, Jessamine Slaughter Burgum, and her mother had an interest in education. So when she was 18 years old, and it was 1899. NDSU was starting. It was first years of school, and Jessamine, my grandmother, was in that first class. There were 6 people in the class, 5 guys and 1 girl, and it was, and I think when I was going there, the ratio was still the same. But but she. Anyway, she came out of school. She was a school teacher, and along the way, she met and married my grandfather, who was an immigrant from Wales and had come. And the Burgums that came from Wales first settled around Washburn in the 1870s, and then later in 1882, they ended up back near Arthur, and in that, and then later in 1906, Jessamine and her husband founded the Arthur Companies in 1906, which is our family business. Started out as a single small grain elevator with other competitors in town. It's grown to be a diversified agribusiness, and it's got its 4th generation of leadership, and still run by the Burgum family, and a great enterprise, and a place where I learned a lot of my values working there in the summers growing up about commitment to customers and lifetime and providing value. On the other side, on my mom's side, her dad ended up in Fargo as the first public health official in Fargo, Dr. Burton Kilbourne. This is a picture of him in 1930 working on vaccinating kids. But they had kids, had 2 families that believed in education, and so at NDSU, my dad, who was born and raised in Arthur, met my mom, who was born and raised here in Fargo at 1114 North 4th Street, just north of Sanford. And the two of them met, and then began a romance that was carried on. After they graduated from college, both of them went on to grad school, but then World War II happened, and my dad, like a lot of other folks in the region, after Pearl Harbor, dropped out of school and made his way to the gym in Castleton and got in the line to sign up for the U.S. Navy. In that line next to him was future Governor William Guy. They'd known each other. They'd played basketball against each other. Bill Guy was from Amenia. Dad was from Arthur. They'd been at NDSU. They were in the same fraternity. They both ended up in the Navy. They both ended up as lieutenants on destroyers in the Navy. So Mom and Dad got married during the war, and then after Dad got assigned to a ship, they were apart for 2.5 years. We got all the letters that they wrote to each other during that time frame. But it's an interesting thing about a world without cell phones, and with those kind of delays in communication and the commitment that so many people made to each other to stay together during a time like that when the entire world was, falling apart. Certainly our problems are smaller today. But the good news is, on the Wren, which is the ship that he was on, which was built in Bremerton, Washington, and set sail from Port Angeles, they were in the Aleutians, and then later in the Pacific in another major battles, ended up actually in Tokyo Bay at the time when the surrender was. But I'm grateful to be standing here. The destroyers were used as a picket fence to protect the aircraft carriers, and that picket fence, a third of the destroyers were sunk, a third had major casualties, and a third made it through. This ship survived kamikaze attacks and made it, and Dad came home. They got back home to Arthur, and there he started buying a little farmland. His dad had passed away when he was 7 years old, so he was working at the elevator and buying some farmland, which we were renting out to renters. The happy family got going with my older brother Brad, who was born in the first part of 52, and my sister, who was born in 53, Barbara. And you can see how happy everybody here is in this picture. And they're all excited, two-parent family, two-kid family. And then you can see there's quite a different look here. It reminds me when my own kids, when my first son Joe, and then when our son Joe was we went to the hospital and Jesse, our second child, was born. He was all excited. Then afterwards he said, "Well, she's not coming home, is she?" It's like, yeah, we'll just leave her there. But anyway, we're great being three kids. But we had this great idyllic lifestyle growing up in Arthur. Here's me with my dad getting my first haircut, and this was something which I think now is this part of the big reveal today. But that's Nell Severson there in that photo on the right. Nell Severson was I don't want to say straight off the boat, but as Norwegian as they come. And he had this barber shop in Arthur where people would hang out and smoke, and then you'd come in there as a child, sit in the smoke, get your hair cut, And Nels, as you can see, even when I was sort of, a year old, I think his vision was failing a little bit. His tools weren't very sharp, and you look at me staring at that giant brush in terror. I got my hair cut from Nels, all the way up through high school, and I think that was really the beginning of me not getting my hair cut anymore. I think that was the whole thing. I think we can trace it right back to here. People thought I was trying to be fashionable. I just had so many cuts on the back of my neck that I was, but that was Nels. But anyway, we had this idyllic, great lifestyle growing up as a family. We learned, to appreciate the beauty of the prairie. Our family, there's an artist from Fergus Falls called Beck, and we always call this a Beck sunset whenever we see it, because my mom loved this view of the prairie filtered through shelter belts. And life times were simple. I mean, this is my sister Barbara, who's here today, playing on this gigantic snowdrifts after that huge March 1966 blizzard, which some of you would ever. And again, my older brother Brad was amazing and fantastic. Barb's was amazing. Brad passed away in 2010, and we miss him dearly. Barb is still a big part of my life and my kids' lives. And they did try to push me off cliffs and stuff when I was younger. That's what you do to younger siblings. But in generally, it was all all great. But along the way of that, that growing up and that family time, there was certainly a seed of entrepreneurship planted that has stuck with me. And I have to credit my parents for this, which is when I was being the precocious child of saying, hey, I think I have an idea and I want to do it, that they weren't like, hey, maybe you should study or maybe you should do this. They were like, hey, great idea, and how can you swear you do it? So one of my first businesses that I started, I was a little bit depressed because Hunter, 6 miles away, had a newspaper called the Hunter Times, and Arthur didn't have a newspaper. Castleton had the Castleton Reporter. And so we were sort of stuck in the middle with no news, and I said, why don't we have a newspaper? And I think the answer must have been, well, maybe you should start one. So this is the mimeograph machine had just been invented, new piece of exciting technology. I'm sure some of you remember digging through waste paper baskets at school looking for the tests, and after they were printed off. But this was an effort to do this, and so I got this thing going, and I was the editor, but I was also in charge of circulation. I did have some things I needed to work out on my business model. The price to buy one of these was 10 cents, but if you wanted an ad, it was 5 cents, which at the time seemed fine, but I really thought I should go to the Forum today and tell them that if their newspaper costs $1, they should really give me an ad for 50 cents. And it turns out it doesn't work that way. So the business model wasn't really quite there, but the entrepreneurial bug was. The next thing I got going was the Doug and Denny with Denny Home, the neighbor in town there, the lemonade stand and shoe shine business. Of course, that was great market research. Everybody walking around downtown Arthur wants to get their shoes shined, of course. So that one didn't work out so well. I did like beet hoeing. When sugar beets came to the valley, that was a good thing. You didn't get paid by the hour, you got paid by the row, and so getting $1.25 for a half-mile row, the more you worked, the more you got paid. I loved that concept. And I grew up in a family that was very civically involved. My mother, school board, still very involved with as an alumnus at NDSU. She ran and was successful in becoming the Republican National Committee woman. I got exposed to my first Republican convention in 1968 when we were all there helping campaign for K's OK. And so again, a great role model. My dad was very involved in boards and civic stuff, and that was all fantastic. And again, this great thing, civic parents, great family. But then when I was a seventh grader, my dad came down with a brain tumor, and he was sick for 2 years, and we lost him. It was so then everything kind of comes crashing down, and Mom says, "Hey, I got to go back to work," and she goes and she's on an alumni board trying to search for an interim leader to run. Be the dean of the College of Home Economics at NDSU. She'd been out of the workforce for 25 years. She's on the search committee. She does what everybody does when they've been out of the workforce for 25 years. You miss a meeting and they say, hey, let's make Catherine the dean. And so that was her entry-level position back into the workforce. And of course, she had a fabulous run. She went from interim to full-time, and I sort of say the rest is history in terms of what she was able to accomplish in that role after Dad was gone. And so when I was in high school, I finished high school with the support of some great friends. Some of them are here today in the room, guys people that have stood by me from the day my dad got sick all the way to today. They've just been there for me, and so that part's great. But when so off to NDSU, Mom's working at NDSU, and so we at the NDSU got involved in a lot of things. Cheering was one of them. Here you can see the result of the early barbering scarring going on. You can also see in the back of that one photo on the upper left why I didn't become a X Games skateboard champion. But I had an itch for a lot of things. Apparently, I had worked all through high school. A lot of Class B basketball, Class B football, Class B track, classic small town, involved in everything. Got to college, been working every summer, and I decided, between being a counselor at Boys State, and when my brother was going to get married, that I was going to take some time, so I took 7.5 weeks off and hitchhiked to Alaska, because of course that's what you do when you're 19. That was an amazing trip, and I learned a lot about myself during that time. And also then was when I back at school, got elected student body president, and some of the risk-taking starting to show up here. I revived a tradition that had been around in the 50s of betting the UND student body president his pants on the outcome of the game. And the good news is I didn't have to give up my beautiful white Lycra cheerleading bell-bottom pants to everyone after the game. So that was a great year when NDSU won up at UND in football. And then the entrepreneurial bug was still there. I mean, during college, I was working at home on the helping with the farmers that were renting our land. I was working at the elevator. I was doing stuff, but I started a chimney sweep business when I was in a senior year in college, and that was really I was looking for a job where I could stay in the black and move up fast. That was the whole point of that, But it turns out, that there's luck involved in life. And so then when I didn't know what I wanted to do, I was graduating from NDSU undecided in university studies. That's a degree for people that can't make up their mind. And so with this university studies degree, of course, I thought, well, I'll apply to all the top business schools in the country. And when I didn't really know what a business school was, hadn't visited them. And anyways, but I sent it off. At the last second, I attached a copy of a similar article to this. It was one that had gone out on AP. And it turns out that was the key to getting into Stanford, because they wanted to have a press release that said their incoming class included, scientists and doctors and former NBA players and a chimney sweep. So that job was that opened a lot of doors for me. So Stanford was amazing. Was there for a couple years there, learning great stuff, and then I was continuing to, come home and stay connected with North Dakota. There wasn't a lot of opportunities in North Dakota, as Jeff Young said in those times. I ended up going to Chicago and working there for a number of years. And meanwhile, back home, the elevator is still, chugging along and continuing to grow. And so then in 1983, when after I started discovering what PC software was when I was working in Chicago, and I realized this was going to change the world, I got connected with the Great Plains, which had been a computer store here, and they were doing a startup. The two founders, Joe Larson and Roger Turner, I got connected with them, and I said, hey, let's get together. So then I had inherited my portion of the farmland from my dad, so I literally bet the farmland, to put it into a software company, which I think you have to actually question my judgment on doing that. It looks good now. At the time, taking that leap wasn't so smart. I'm sure you look back and you look at the Microsoft campus today and say that was a no-brainer. This was the group that I was betting the farm on. This is part of that early group. So I think you understand the context of this, and it was not only that software was new, it was that everybody was saying this cannot be done in North Dakota. They just said, maybe someplace else, not here, never been done here, and got a lot of advice from people to quit trying to grow fast, or don't do this or don't do that. But this was an enterprise where we ended up, by the end, we had kids from 220 different small towns in North Dakota, and in our internal mantra was that we're going to take Class B kids and Class A kids. We're going to take those kids from North Dakota, and we're going to build a world-class company. And that's exactly what we did. And I don't know who could believe more in the power of what North Dakota can do than I can, because of the people you see in this picture. They're all a bunch of Jeff Youngs, like you saw up here on the stage. These are people that would have left the state and gone someplace else, but they stayed and they built something great. And again, it wasn't just that we had great products and great financial success, but we did it the right way. We did it with values around caring and commitment and courage and community that everybody executed against. And with that, we were the smallest company in the nation on the Fortune 100 best places to work, and we were there 4 years in a row and moving up the list. I mean, it was incredible. And and along the way, we did things differently. We weren't trying to do it the way everybody else was doing it. And I think people remember from that era that a lot of people still remember that I always wore tennis shoes with my suit. And if you look really closely on here, the tennis shoes, it's important for people to know that they actually had the Great Plains logo on them on the sides and on the top. These were a pair of custom shoes that looked like Reeboks, but they were Great Plains tennis shoes that a partner had given me that I wore, and that was great. And then that went on for a long time, and until I got asked in front of a crowd about this size one time, why do you wear tennis shoes with a suit? And then I thought to myself, on the stage, my answer was, why am I wearing a suit? It's such a great partnership. There's more people working on the Microsoft campus today than there were at the time that we were acquired, because of those 2002, about 1,200 of those were here in Fargo. 400 of them were rest of North America, and we already at that time, in the time we were acquired, had 400 people working outside the U.S. for us. So then the campus is much larger today than it was at the time we got acquired. And that's coming up on 15 years, and it's exciting to see what's happening, and it's exciting that if we have the third CEO of Microsoft, Satya Nadella, was someone who worked directly for me on my team for 6.5 years while we're there. And so we've got the first CEO of Microsoft that really truly understands Fargo and the people that are here, because he had people reporting to him in this organization for a long time. So a great success story, but it doesn't have to be the only. It doesn't have to be the only one. You saw what Evolution won, and dozens of other companies that have spun off from this and have really created a tech boom. And the thing that's exciting for me is that when we've got low ag prices and low oil prices, it doesn't affect a thing about the jobs on that campus. It's part of having a diversified economy that's got a lot of pillars in it. And we need to create even more great jobs like this. And again, along the way, whether it's Great Plains or Microsoft, SuccessFactor, where I chaired Intelligent Insights, where I'm chair today, and Atlassian, the thing that all these companies have in common are best places to work. There's certain things that I've learned in my life, which is if you're going to, build companies where everything that you make and sell comes out of the minds of your team members, then you need to really be focused on the culture that you're creating to drive that. And Atlassian, there was some press just recently, but a company where I'm chairman had this fantastic IPO just last December in New York on NASDAQ, and this is a company that's helping transform the world because they deliver solutions that help people in teams work better, faster, stronger together, and including delivering software better, faster, and we need a lot of that. Arthur Ventures, that I had the great pleasure of co-founding with my nephew James, my older brother Brad's oldest son. We're focused not really on venture capital, we call it partnership capital, which is we want to build great companies with shared dreams and trusted relationships. We've invested in over 20 software companies, and so I continue to learn about what it takes to build, create great jobs and build stuff. But one of the things that I also know about the world is that, there's just some unstoppable forces that are happening that are driving dramatic change, and that's it's happening as we sit here, which is storage is essentially free. And you think about storage, when we started Great Plains, it cost $5,000 for 5 megabytes of storage. That would be $1 million, for a gigabyte of storage. And today, if any of you've got young children, you have a shopping list and you got your school list when you go to get the supplies in the fall. It's like, here, get your pen, get your pad, get your paper, and make make sure you get an 8 gig, drive, which costs about $7, and that thing would have cost $8 million in 1983. And then you got to decide, do I get the pink one or the little one or the one that looks like sushi? It's like make sure you get an 8 gig good enough and are proud of it. We're missing the boat. We've got to get to gigabyte or more as a state and get there quickly. It's as important to everything we do. It affects ag, it affects energy, it affects healthcare, it affects education, and it'll be literally like we're living in a place that doesn't have roads if we haven't invested in that. And then ubiquitous automatic sensors. I mean, we've spent our life thinking that computing is about people putting their hands on keyboards. Intelligent Insights, we work with doctors trying to transform, the healthcare experience with doctors and nurses. And what we've done and what our federal rules have done today with the electronic health records, we take all of our most expensive professionals and we turn them into data entry people. When you go visit with your doctor, they're not looking at you, they probably have their hands on a keyboard trying to do data entry. And guess what? Humans are really bad at data entry. We're really high cost. We take some of the highest trained people in the world, and then we have them do something that they're inherently not good at because we've got, 5 fingers and thumbs, and the keyboard hasn't really changed in 50 or 60 years. But there's ubiquitous automatic sensors. We can get, data in through video, through voice, through automatically. We can change the whole thing. I mean, we're entering an era where there's going to be automatically collected data everywhere. And, whether you're driving across a field on your tractor and it's just taking sense, instead of doing it, when I was a kid, we do a soil sample for a whole quarter section. Now people are working on solutions where you can automatically test the soil as you're driving across it. This is about the transformation. And then all of you, just ask, how many of you have a smartphone in your pocket right now? Raise your hand if you have a smartphone in your pocket. We're living in a state where everybody's got a supercomputer in their pocket, and we're not delivering, government services like everyone has a smartphone in their pocket, like a supercomputer. So the magic of software is going to transform the world. Moore's law is going to continue to make all this stuff cheaper, and it's going to affect every industry and every organization in the state. And it's and if you can see it. You can see it in the sense that you take a look at Uber. Uber is one of the world's largest transportation companies, and they don't own a vehicle. Airbnb, if you haven't tried it, check it out. But you can go online and rent a room in something like 63,000 cities in the world. And they're posting now over 2 million rooms per night in availability. The largest hotel chains in the world, Intercontinental and Marriott, have something like 700,000 rooms. So in a matter of a few years, a company that doesn't own any real estate is now the biggest hotel proprietor or room seller in the world. And then you take Lyft and Zipcar and these other things. These things aren't even 6 or 7 years old, and they're the biggest in their category. And the people that are in that world, Amazon's the world's largest retailer, doesn't own a store. Okay, we don't have to look far for examples, but this change is unstoppable and it's coming, and we need leadership that understands the change is coming. If you believe in the status quo and you're just going to keep status quo, hunker down, we're going to get through it, commodity prices will come back. That's like driving in a straight line when the road is curving. The only thing that guarantees the status quo is that we're going to end up in the ditch because the world is making a sharp turn. It's driven by these technologies. The Kilburn Group's another place and passion where I spend my time, and I'm sure it may have the source of that may have come from I had a love and respect for historic buildings, but as I got into it, I started to understand all of the things, the federal policies and some of the state policies that are causing us to build inefficient, ineffective cities. We have lots of jobs open in the state, and guess what? I know that there's this idea that everybody can work everywhere, but most of the young people want to live in a place where they have a chance to be around other young people, and this is why nationally young people are moving to cities. And that's not to say that there's some percentage of people who are going to always love and want to have the rural lifestyle like I had growing up in Arthur, but if we want to be in the mainstream of recruiting kids out of college, retaining people, getting young couples to move here, young professionals, you can't have a healthy state without healthy cities. And if you think this is only about Fargo, just take a look at our state. The top 8 cities now represent 53% of the population. The top 50 cities, that's if you have more than 1,000 people in your town, that's 2/3 of the state. And yet we don't ever think about the lens of how do we create healthy cities. But if we don't have great cities, we're never going to have a great state. And this is how we compete for talent. This is how we fill the 17,000 jobs that are open, is we build smart, healthy cities that are economic and efficient. So, this has basically been my life. My life is sort of a Teddy Roosevelt quote, which is far and away the best prize life has to offer is a chance to work hard at work worth doing. And I'm so grateful that I've had a chance to do so much, so much great work and work with so many of you in doing that. So I thought I would take a second and kind of go free, since you guys took time out of your day to be here. I'm going to condense my whole life into one slide. Risk-taking and perseverance. Those are the core elements that you have to do if you're going to drive change. You have to do that. It's nice if you have an aspirational shared vision that you build with the team around you. You attract and build that team. You create a winning customer-focused culture. You bootstrap and attract capital. You engage with stakeholders, and then you grow and lead with values. And then you wrap the whole thing in innovation. That's that little white thing around the thing, because every element of that team, rather today, on how you recruit, how you attract, how you engage, how you grow, how you get capital, all of those things every system is being affected with innovative and new ways to approach it. So that was the thing. And you started to say, hey, I can just keep on doing this. I've been doing it. The formula works. Things are going great at Kilburn Group. Things are going great at Arthur Ventures. The phone keeps ringing after things like Atlassian. There's lots of things to do. But last summer, there was a position opening that caught my eye. And that... And that was when Jack Dalrymple, who's farms down the road from Arthur in Castleton, announced that he wasn't running again. I had co-chaired Jack's campaign, as I had been an honorary chair for Hoven before that, for John Hoven, now our senator. And I thought Jack was going to run again, and all of a sudden he's not running. And so then I thought, well, that's interesting. So then you do what I do is I do research, and so I thought a good place to start is to talk to people who've done the job. So I had a conversation with John Hoven, who's been elected governor 3 times, now our senator. And I said, John, tell me about this. And he basically said, hey, look, a campaign is a job interview with the voters of North Dakota. That's what the campaign is all about. You've got to go out there and basically interview for the job. And so then I thought, well, okay, well, that's what the campaign is. What's the position description? And I spent time, talking to, Ed Schaefer, talking to John Hoven, talking to Jack, talking to people that understand the role, looking at what's in the Constitution and Censure Code, and really trying to understand it. And this is what I summarized all that stuff, was that the North Dakota Governor's Law requires that you have an aspirational shared view for North Dakota. You have to attract and build a team. There's 142 boards you get to appoint, all the cabinet members. I mean, this is an operating job. This is not like being a congressman or a senator. This is you actually running something. There's, over 15,000 employees between the universities and the state itself. So then you got to create a winning culture, because you got a lot of people working for the government that may feel like they're overworked, underpaid, don't have the right systems to support them. And then you got to, right now we're in a spot where we really need a fiscally conservative reset, because we've been living off a growth where government has grown way faster than our economy the last 6 years, way faster. Because we've been riding the oil boom, and what everybody tells you, we're headed for some budget cuts, and we have to make those budget cuts, and we have to keep. But it's not about doing less; it's about doing more with less, and that's what businesses have to do, and that's what I had to do in the software. In the software world, prices dropped every year. I mean, price is always going down. Who are you competing with? We're competing with free. We're competing with everybody in the world. I mean, so every year you had to figure out how are we going to do more with less. That's the model when you're competing in technology. And then you have to engage with stakeholders, legislators, the private sector. Private sector, very important. It's a huge chunk of our economy. It drives it. It's the entrepreneurs and risk taker that are creating the tax base that we need. And then you got to grow and lead with values. And then you have to have innovation around all of that. So it turns out that that's actually, was interesting to me, that was sort of the job that I feel like I've been doing for all these years. But then there was one other thing that I learned, and that was that if you're also the governor, then you're told that you have to be the cheerleader for the whole state. So anyway, I guess I'm trying to make the case. This is a job interview. You've asked me the question effectively, which is, do you understand the job? Do you want to do it? And I'm trying to tell people, I'm trying to tell the voters that are going to decide on this job thing. I said, I feel like I've got the leadership skills, and I feel like because of the technology changes that are coming in my life in technology and my life in building cities in North Dakota, that I've got a set of skills that are uniquely relevant to this point in time. I just feel that. And so then if you said, why are you running? Well, because people would say, why would you want to do that? Why would you want to give up this great life in the private sector, to go be a politician? And then I would listen to people about what they thought being a politician was, and this is where I feel like this is where there's a need for a change, because I don't want to call it the big lie, but the big lie about being a politician is that some group has to be right and some other group has to be wrong. And not only that the other group has to be wrong, we have to be angry at them, and then we have to also either demean them, or they're immoral, or they're un-American, they're unpatriotic, and we get this division that's going on between the people that want to put labels on everything, and they'd rather put a label on something than to listen to each other, and then they dig in and they go from being not just polarized, but also being paralyzed. And I look at that and I'm like, how in the world? You could never build a business and be successful at the scale that I've had a chance to be with the teams I've had if you didn't listen to each other, if you didn't have, the cauldron of debate going on, if you didn't have people with different points of view in that company sharing those points of view, and then if you didn't resolve those disputes by actually looking at the data as opposed to just shouting louder. So, it turns out that when they said, this whole why thing, I thought about it hard, and I really said, I don't want to be a politician. I don't want to be a politician. But I did decide that I want to be an elected leader, and that's why I'm announcing today that I'm running for governor. You guys are all too kind, but thank you for that. I'm going to need all of that and more, because I'll tell you why. Because I'm so grateful for your support, and I look around the room and I see people in this room that I've spent my life with, I've worked with, I've gone to high school with, gone to college with, built companies with, built Fargo with, hunted with. It's really gratifying that all of you are here today, and so thank you, so sincerely for that. I also want to thank my family. I've got 2 of my 3 kids here today. Jesse, who's home from college. Tom, who's still here in high school in Fargo. Catherine, who's just a rock pillar. You're amazing. So, anyway. When you're surrounded by the love of your family, this makes it easier, but it's still hard. And so we need all of your help, and I need your help partly because of the path that I'm choosing. The path that I'm choosing is that I have, after taking a look at all the options, because I want to be an elected leader, I want to serve as governor, I know that I have the ability to change the trajectory of this state. And I will do that through the things we've talked about, building the teams, listening to stakeholders. I know that I can do that. But to do that, you have to get elected. And it turns out that the path I'm choosing is to run as a Republican, and I'm going to run at the convention. And people might... And some of you are very familiar with that process in this room, and some of you may not understand that. But this convention, there'll be 15 to 2,000 people gathering in Fargo in early April. It's about candidate endorsement and candidate selection. And out of respect for the people that are in the party, that give their time, their talents, their treasures to come there to build that convention, deliver it, to debate that stuff, I'm going to go there. But I'm also, out of respect for the people that aren't there, I'm planning on continuing on past the convention, because if I'm unsuccessful in achieving it there, I'm going to go to the primary, and I'm doing this. I want to be very clear. I'm not doing this out of any disrespect for anybody that's involved in the convention. But I also know that, if you're a single mother in Minot with 2 kids, do you have 3 days you can take off and $1,000 to come get a hotel room in Fargo and, sit in a convention for 3 days? If you're a college kid that's, got, tests and finals, I mean, do you have the time to come off and go to the convention? Even if you can even figure out how to get registered as a delegate? Because it's not like buying something on Amazon. It's a little more got to, know somebody to get there thing, but it's, so that's that. And then if you're, what if you're a new American? If you're a new American, how in the world would you even know that this thing is even happening? And even many Republicans in the state are not connected. So I'm trying to build the state for not just the Republicans that are here today, but for the ones in the future that may become Republicans, that may become active North Dakotans. And that means, women. It means young people. It means new Americans. And the only way I can do that is to go to the primary as well. And so it's not out of disrespect for the people at the convention. It's because I respect all the people that can't get to the convention that I want to do that, and I'm sure that'll be one of the first things that people will take issue with me, that I'm not respecting the process. But hey, guess what? I spent my whole life doing stuff that people told me I shouldn't do, and it's. So it's what we're going to do, and it's going to be a positive message. It's going to be a message of gratitude, but it's also going to be a message that we need to change the way not only the way we deliver, but the way we discuss, the way we debate, and the way we come up with solutions. Because if we have an opportunity as a state. We're a small state, and we are in so much better shape than a California, and Illinois, or so many other places. We actually have an opportunity to transform everything we do, from education to healthcare. We have a chance to transform and actually lead and be different and better than everyone. We can do that the same way we did at Great Plains. We can do that with North Dakotans. We can make it happen. But again, to do that, you have to be elected. I should also just tell you, I'm going to the convention. I will compete vigorously at the convention, but I want everybody here to understand that I don't have any expectations that I'm going to win at the convention. People should just know that. I will go there. I'm going to compete, but I just don't think that's not in the cards. When you're the outsider coming in, it's a very tough thing. That's why we need your help, and we'll use that as a springboard to go on. But that thing. So what you can do, you can get involved. You can stay up to date. You can donate at dougburgum.com. And if you also want to just follow us, you can follow us on Facebook, you can follow us on Instagram, you can follow us on Twitter. And then the thing we need more than anything, because some of you will be attending the convention, if you're there, would love to have your vote and support. For the majority of the people that aren't at the convention, we're going to need help getting people out for the statewide primary on June 14th. That's what we're going to need to do. So that's the game plan. I have made no campaign promises today. It wouldn't be a campaign if I didn't start off with a campaign promise. So I have one that I want to share just to kind of get myself going. I did buy Politics for Dummies and paging through there and talked about this section. But anyway, I'm going to be campaigning all over the state. And when we were in high school, we had a thing called it wasn't really fictional, but we had T-shirts, so I guess that made it real. But we had a thing called the DHS, the Dakota High School ski team, and we had some of those pictures of the horizon and the little telephone poles and it's being really flat. But anyway, I'm committing that I'm going to ski at all 4 North Dakota ski resorts during this campaign. Something I've always wanted to do. I'm looking forward to it. If some of you want to join me, we'll try to let you know when I'm headed out. Anyway, but again, from the bottom of my heart, I'm so grateful for your support. I'm so grateful for your taking your time to be here today. On your way out, talk to somebody from Team Burgum. We'll have some materials to connect you with on the way out, or get connected again through the website, dougburgum.com, or on Facebook. But everything you can do, everything you've been part of my life so far, I appreciate. Everything you can do over the next 6 months, I will be super grateful. So thank you for being here. Have a great day. Go North Dakota.